The two most important things in technology is not the latest tool or the latest site or the latest tech. It's integrity and accountability.
Hello there, my friend. You're listening to the Hot Mess Hotline, and this is Stephanie Krevins. You are totally in the right place if you are an ambitious leader who wants to pull off a big, stupendous, amazing transformational project. In the past, we would have called this change management, but I just don't think that change management is enough anymore and is able to keep up with the rate of change that we need for the rest of the 21st century. And that's what we have for you here on the Hot Mess Hotline. We teach you how to lead with strategy, innovation, flexibility, and focus so that you can pull off your current strategic plan so that you can hit your goals this calendar year and get that bonus you deserve and so much more. Whatever you're working on, we've got hard-earned lessons from executives to make you more adaptable and put into practice as soon as this episode is over. Today's guest is Richard Luna, the president and founder of Protected Harbor and NetMagic Systems. He is a recognized technology expert serving clients in the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut metropolitan markets. The company has grown to more than 30 employees and approaching 40 actually, and is a regional leader in providing managed IT services, data management, cybersecurity, software development, and data center and technology planning and consulting for clients across multiple business sectors. Not only is he the president, he also founded NetMagic, which is a password resetting system used by Fortune 100 companies. He's also a sought-after speaker who frequently presents to groups everywhere from 20 to 400 people about technology, data management, data storage, and all things IT. Today, our conversation focuses on the hot mess he founded himself in because, as the CEO, he simply did not press send on an email. Let's dig in.
All right, Richard, tell us about your hot mess, please.
Oh, my hot mess. My hot mess was as the business was growing. At that point we were a straight MSP, and so it was about solving problems. Mm-hmm. We had a rudimentary ticket system, but basically we were just starting out, and I was the dispatcher. And my main methodology to dispatch was email.
Oof.
And it was really funny because one of my techs, who's now my chief technology officer, he loves to remember the day that it was 11 o'clock. And I said to him, why aren't you at the client? He goes, you never sent the email out. Everybody is sitting around and has no idea where to go.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so my business coach at the time, who's still my business coach, basically said, you need to fix this. This is a problem. It's going to be a hindrance in your business, in your future. And it was really hard to come to terms with that I couldn't do it all. I have broad shoulders, and I like to think that I'm omnipotent and I can do anything. Uh-huh. And I'm not going to ever give up that I can accomplish anything I want to. But what I've learned as I've gotten older in life is I can choose what to focus on and what to do.
Yeah.
And that choice is really critical, because if you choose the wrong things, you can be self-destructive. If you choose the right things, you can be transformative. And
yes.
And that's a wide swing. So I really had to listen to what he was saying. And I'd look at my inbox and I would get 1,000 emails a day, because I was trying to parse through what clients are going on and what's happening, and do techs need help. And I had to deal with all of that. And email was really, it was pre-chat, or there was.
It doesn't matter, right? Like at the end of the day, like even if you had chat, it would have been, I have 1,000 chats a day. Like
that's right. Yeah.
It doesn't fix anything.
A string of chats.
Yes.
And so I said to him, okay, I'm ready to deal with this. How should I work on it? He goes, I'm going to connect you with somebody. And he brought in a trainer, and she's been awesome. I've hired her a bunch of times. And she said, okay, I need a day in your office and get sticky notes and a whiteboard. Okay, I can handle sticky notes and a whiteboard. And she handed out a pad, a sticky note pad to each of the techs and said, write down the 5 or 10 things that you think interfere with your day. And so it would be, well, Richard assigns the tickets, email, no centralized system.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really painful for me. I would have preferred at that moment to have root canal. Looking back on it, I know how I felt, right? Looking back on it, I could see that prior version of myself being forced to confront obstacles.
Yes.
That I had to fix it because I was at the end of bandwidth, 18 hours a day. I'm the one dictating, but if I let go, then the quality is going to go down. Right. And I don't know what the next step is.
Yes.
And it's that moment of really being stuck.
Oof.
And
so can we highlight that for a second? Because this is the lie that every leader hears from their ego, that they can either choose to confront like you did and transform, or allow them to stay stuck. Like physically, we cannot work more than 18 hours a day. Like physically, we shouldn't even be anywhere close to that, right? But your ego said, because I don't know the next step, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing right now because I know how to do it.
I'm not good enough. I better focus harder. I better work on this harder. What did I do that I couldn't get it right? That's the echo.
Yes.
And I had to pull back from that and say, okay, did I really work as hard as I could today? And I would say yes, but I didn't get the result I wanted. You hire a business coach and, okay, I need to do that. I need to do that. And I need to do that. And it's really easy to kind of poo-poo it and kind of ignore it.
Oh.
And I don't want to say I did it. I did that, but I didn't take it deeply. And I certainly didn't pay enough attention to it. And it's interesting because I have the same thing now with some clients, right? Is I'll tell them, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. And then they go ahead and do it. And of course they get into trouble because they did things that I said don't do.
Yes.
It's great. Life is long until you get to see the flip side.
Yep.
And I got a chance to really say, hey, it takes people, even the smartest of smart people, it takes them over and over repetition to get the value, to understand. And so that makes me think, the marketing terms, you have to hear something 7 times before you make an action.
Yep.
And then some people say, well, with social media the way it is now, it's more, whatever. The point is, you have to hear something over and over again until it clicks.
Yes.
And until you can internalize, until I could internalize it. I'm going to speak about myself because that's the whole purpose of this, right?
Yeah.
And so my coach was awesome in that he had a lot of patience with me.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a great exercise because what the trainer then did was we went over everybody's sticky note by sticky note. And she aligned them based on what sticky notes were related. So one would be, we don't know what customers actually need. Oh, okay, that goes here. Mm-hmm. We don't know until we get the email that there's a problem. Oh, that goes there. We only find out after we get an email what to do. Oh, that goes there. So now we better have a ticket system, right? Because, oh my gosh. And so that was an awesome exercise to go through because you then step back and then it becomes obvious. Then it's like, okay, so this is what I was hiding from, right? I was hiding not from the change, but from acknowledging that what I was doing was not helping. And so I needed to go through the exercise and almost make it clinical and then look at it as a third party at my own work, right? It's my own company.
Yes.
And say, okay, that's what I did. That's what we were. That's who we, at that moment, that's who we are. And then it's, okay, do I really want to continue? Is this grow? Can this business grow like this? And of course the answer was no.
Right. Well, and what that moment is for you and the company, and I don't know if you would agree with the way that I'm going to say it, but this is something that I hear a lot of leaders and founders deal with, is you are not your company. The company is an outside entity that, yes, you've created, but you are not the company, and you have to be willing to separate yourself, your ego from it, so that the company can grow, because you had reached your plateau with your role in the way that you had created it. So you stopped the company from growing. But they're two separate entities, and you were keeping your people from holding any of the accountability because you held all of the accountability. All their Post-it notes were about most of the things of stuff you weren't doing. And it's not because you were wrong or bad or stupid, but because you physically ran out of bandwidth.
It's interesting you say that, because as you were saying it, I am not the company. I wanted to say, well, wait a minute, I need to work on that. But I've actually had a tangential issue, which is I felt the company didn't have the right voice. And I've gone through several different marketing companies and people to get to a place that I could find somebody who understood the voice and could echo it. And that I don't want every customer in the world. I want the customer that wants to be wanted, that wants to be fixed, that wants help. And that, of course, they need help, but they honor the help. It's going to be beneficial to them, and they are seeking it. They want guidance. They want to be in a better place.
Yes.
That matters, right? And so that's what I flipped off, because I've struggled in my business to get to execute that, because if the day-to-day is on fire, you can't get to the place of what voice are you. I was fortunate, knock on wood, to get a lot of success, but I then have to keep the plane in motion, right? I gotta keep the plane in the air. So I don't have time to worry about what's our voice. We've got issues that have to be solved today. No, today.
Yes.
Not tomorrow, today.
Yes.
So that took a long time to get to that place where we run like a Swiss clock, right?
Nice.
So now we run like a Swiss clock. The beautiful thing that I wish I could turn back time to tell myself, my prior self, is A, it'll be okay. B, you don't have any choice, because the way you're going, you're just going to piss people off and not create the environment that you're looking to create. And you're not going to keep good people, because they're just going to get burnt out and they're going to go.
Yes.
And 3, you're not going to be happy. So stop.
Yep.
And if I could have had a deeper insight, I probably would have executed earlier. I will say that once I made that change, the changes kept getting faster and faster.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like exercising a muscle. Once you break the pattern that, oh, I'm not bad, I'm really good at what I do, and I can show it, and I can work with people, I don't have to control everything. Yeah, that's a muscle, right? And that's the entrepreneurial muscle, where you have an idea of a business you want to start, and you just, God damn it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And you go through that process and start. And it takes every fiber in your soul to make that happen. It's really hard to see the forest from the trees, right? Because you're digging one tree at a time.
Yes.
And then another tree, and then another tree, and then another tree. And you're like, all right, step back. You got a forest. You just planted a forest.
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Well, and for those of us who have that internal drive, like we're not doing it for outside validation. We are physically made to keep driving, to keep planting, to, oh, you want a forest of 1 acre? How about 3 acres?
Right.
3 acres is possible, right? And we carry this weight on our shoulders that no one understands unless you are built like that too, physically and mentally. And it takes a really loud incident. You have to be stretched really, really far to make you stop and think. Usually the first couple times, at least.
So I find every entrepreneur that has that drive is a broken person. And I count myself in that list.
Yes, same.
That I've had to deal with trauma early in my life, and it led me to a place of not trusting or allow myself to be vulnerable or exposed, to be in a place that I didn't have to depend on anybody else. That if I'm going to be successful, I'm going to do it on my own ability, on my own skill, in my own way, period. And the maturization in my life has been to accept other people who have similar defects, who are also broken, but who are also brilliant in their own way.
Yes.
And create an environment where we work together.
Yes.
Right. That I'm coaching. Like my CTO doesn't quote unquote report to me. My COO doesn't report to me. We collaborate. We
work together. Yeah. We work with. Together. Yes. Yeah. Agreed. Completely. Yes.
And I don't have to dictate. I can say, this is the voice that I want in the company. This is the direction I want the company to go in. I heard what you said. I take it into account. And here's why I disagree with it on this area, but agree with it on this other area. And here's where I think we should go.
Yes. Yep. So for folks who are listening and they're not watching on video, you can't see, but Richard and I are twins. We have the exact same personality. Yeah.
I think it's very I think anybody who's an entrepreneur, my experience has been, you go far enough back and you can find out, okay, that's where they broke. And I know for me when it was, and I know that before that event I was one person, and after that I was another. And I probably spent the first half of my life being angry about that, and I've spent the second half of my life being grateful for the exact same event. Right? And it's about what that event taught me and the skill set that I have from it. Right? I can solve any problem. I mean, I when it comes to in IT, there's nothing I haven't seen. And there's nothing, literally nothing I can't fix, understand, resolve. And I don't mean a little problem here. I mean large scale systems, data flows, DevOps. I love that stuff. I don't know if I would have had that if I had followed a different path, right? Because necessity is the mother of invention. So you got, if I can't depend on anybody, and I couldn't, then I've got to get rent money, right? I've got to eat.
Yes.
So I better figure out a way to solve problems.
Yes.
And that way to solve problems better be needed. So for me, when I started the business, it was all about, what are customers going to pay for it?
Yep.
And I mean, honestly, and so my first product, the first thing I did was write software to manage systems. And that was an awesome experience because big companies, I mean, Mellon Bank was a client of mine, Bankers Trust, CSC, Arthur Anderson, really large companies would buy my software and use it in their systems. And I was like, wow, these people have absolutely no idea that I'm like a 4-person operation. And 9/11 kind of ended that world because a lot of, I'm from New York, if the accent doesn't give it away. And
I was thinking California, but okay, New York, all right, whatever.
No, there's a few more, man, and then New York. And at that moment, 9/11 was really devastating, right? A lot of clients got affected. It was also empowering in that clients would call and say, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's I know it's bad, but yeah." And I had an appointment in the building following the next day.
Oof.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And I was like, wow, that had been one day later. Okay. So
Yes.
I'm grateful, right? Because I got a chance to then start up over again. And that's when I went into the service industry and said, okay, how am I going to help people with their technology? And I can remember it was like the fifth or sixth call. I had to rebuild a machine because I started solo, like it was me.
Mm.
And I said, the client was like, why did it take you all day? And I was like, I had to reformat the machine. Every driver had to be downloaded. Back then it was floppies. You had floppy.
Yes.
You had to go find I had to go on the download from a BBS and all the low level drivers. And I said, that's what it took all day. Oh no, it shouldn't have taken that long. You want me to do a half-assed job? I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And, of course, initially I'm very angry, right? Because how dare you question my integrity or my work? Because the last thing I am is not going to have integrity. And why? Not because I'm a wonderful person. It's because if you don't have integrity, people don't trust you and they don't give you more work.
Yes. Very simple.
For me, it was always clarity. It's like, as a tech person, and it was interesting because my PR guy said, I need to write an article about this. The two most important things in technology is not the latest tool or the latest site or the latest tech. It's integrity and accountability. Why? Because integrity, people have to be able to trust what you say, because 99% of the people I speak to have no idea what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And accountability backs up integrity. If I say, well, don't do that, you're going to get into trouble, and they do it, then they get into trouble, and they say, oh, you were right. Yes. But they also say, is this project going to take 30 days? Yes, it'll take 30 days. I better deliver it on the 30th day. Otherwise, I break the trust.
Yes.
So anyway, we got off the hot mess, but it's all in my head. It's all interconnected.
It is interconnected. So I have a question for you. So at the stage where you all did the Post-it note exercise, how many people did you have?
5 people.
5 people. And where are you at now?
40.
40. Okay. So just 8 times growth since then.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a big deal. Yeah.
Yep.
So how do you run the company now so that you know that things run like a Swiss watch and it's not reliant on the proverbial email that has to go out at 8:15 every morning?
I work with people and make it clear what I need their help with. So I hired a COO. When we start to really get rolling, I hired a COO who's a grown-up, had done similar work, appreciated the opportunity because he was kind of burnt out on working far away, and this was close to his house, and said to him, I need you to use every trick in the book that you have, but I don't want to hear from customers on problems. And he said, okay. We had the core, and then he just put rocket engines on it, meaning
Nice.
he built a checks and balances system,
Yep.
which in the end comes to a spreadsheet. Every customer, how many tickets did they put in this week? How many were solved within 15 minutes? How many were solved in a day? What are the outstanding issues? Did anybody call back on an issue? Because that's like verboten in my world, because don't let go of that issue if you're not solving it, if it hasn't been solved. So
yes.
it was a combination of my letting go and letting them make mistakes. It was a combination of making sure that I was clear with what my expectations were.
Mm-hmm.
And it was then my following up, my accountability. He was accountable to me to make sure that clients are happy and there are no outstanding issues.
Yes.
And honestly, the first, I want to say 2 months, he worked in my office. We actually shared an office. And when I've talked to him, he's been here 4 years. When he talks that was really formative, because it wasn't just we care about clients. He heard me talk to the clients, and he realized it was genuine. It was not. It was from the heart. It was genuine that I wanted to make sure we take care of those clients. And being grateful, I mean, whatever God people believe in, it's great. They're all good. For me, every day I've got to check in and just be grateful, because the gifts that I've been given and the opportunities I've been given are amazing. And I need to honor that and not take advantage of it and not expect it. Right?
Yes.
Right? ABG, always be grateful. And I have one story on gratitude, which is I had a long-term client who we were hosting them. And for a long time, we did their deployment. We worked with their programmers. We built out their infrastructure. They were all in our farm. Long-term, really good client. And he calls me up. He says, I think I might be selling the business. And their CEO wants to meet or ask questions of our tech company and our who helped us. And I said, no problem. He said, do you have a tech who can help? And I said, no. This is too important to you. I'm not charging you for the time, but this is critical to your future. I am not going to risk that for anybody else. I said, I will answer the call. And so we had, I want to say, a 90-minute meeting. What I didn't know and found out later is it was their CEO and their board chair were in his office and conferenced me in, and they were going through the standard questions that you ask. And integrity was really important to me. You know, he said, do you find it hard to find people to work? And I said, not finding, I can get resumes. I find it really hard to find the right people, the people that are doing this because they have fire in the belly and a drive, not because they just need a job. I don't want anybody who needs a job. You know, I don't do this because I need a job. I do this because I love what I do.
Yes.
And I want to work with people who have that kind of passion. So another part of it is picking the right people. The end of the gratitude story was we got off the call. He calls me a couple hours later. He says, during the call, they were covering the mic and saying and putting you on mute as you were talking. And they were saying to each other, this guy thinks like we do. And
wow,
it was 5 weeks later. They had a problem in their data center on Labor Day, and their hosting facility wouldn't help them. Their internal people didn't know what to do. And so their chief of operations went to the CEO and said, do you got anybody? Because I'm out of ideas. And he gave him my name. And it was Sunday on Labor Day. And he called me up and said, we need some help. I said, sure. What do you need? You know, happy to help you.
Yeah.
And we jumped on and we got them back up by midday on Monday. And he invited me down to his office. And the other half of that story is that day that I went down there, he's introduced me to his IT group, and the other half of his data center collapses right there. And I sat there and watched for about a half hour, and he looked pretty pale. And I said, can I talk to you outside? And he had a nice group of people, but nobody who was a generalist, right? We live in an age of information silos where the database administrator doesn't know anything the firewall person does. The firewall person doesn't know anything about switches and the L2 layer, the network layer, and the network guy doesn't know anything about databases. So, you know, everybody is kind of running crazy. And I said to him, do you mind if I step in? Because this is like fingers on the chalkboard for me. And he said, sure. And it took a day and a half, and they were back up. I've now had a 5-year relationship with them.
Yeah.
And they're my biggest client. So all from the desire to help a client and have gratitude for the relationship, right? It's all about gratitude. Life is about gratitude.
Yes.
And salmon, you're talking about the expression is salmon swimming upstream. The flip of that is if you follow the stream, it's really easy. So why fight it? Choose to fight it. So I spent a substantial amount of my adult life trying to be the salmon swimming upstream, not realizing how we're all interconnected and how gratitude for me is the connection, is the glue. And that allows me to stay in my space of what I'm comfortable in, but then grab people and bring them in and get them to help me with problems.
Yes.
And that approach has led to an organization that out of the 40 people, I'd say virtually everybody, once they get hired, they stay. And I know it works because I set up an international subsidiary to help with employees. And we go there 1 to 2 times a year. And they stay because it's really clear. I try to make it clear your opinion matters. I want to know if you're not happy. Make sure you got to go through the chain, right? And the chain has to be listening. I don't want anybody in the chain to ignore anybody's feelings, but we got to be in a place of trying to help each other. A big drive for me is education. Always have to be doing new things. So now we're working on a task-based project system that will have AI and Google Translate in it. I have clients who have frontline people that English is not their first language. Like I have a big contractor. He has a lot of subcontractors, and their employees or subcontractors English is not their first language. It's all task based. So you set a task. Oh, you got to move outlets. Okay. Here's a picture. Okay. Now do it 400 times because there's 400 outlets that are wrong. They need a way to issue that request and have that dialogue in English and then have it translated into Spanish.
Nice. Yes.
And then using AI, you can translate it back to English and ask AI, here's 3 recommendations, give the recommendations back into Spanish. That's the answer.
Yes.
And boom. Now that gets translated back into English. So the whole historic record is in English with the translation, and it's all task based. That's what we're working on now. And
That's amazing.
Within 3 months, we'll have it. We're hot in development. We took the last year doing the design work behind it. Now we're actually coding.
Wow.
So, yeah. But like, that's the thing is create an environment where not that you don't know what you'll come into every day, but always challenge people.
Yes.
And I feel bad for knowledge workers who have to constantly be repetitive and do the same job over and over again. That's mind numbing.
It is.
And with AI, they're at risk. I mean,
that's a true statement. Yes. Yeah, I would agree. Oh my gosh. Well, what I hear in that example of what you all are in the process of developing is a recognition that we can use technology to help people be more human at work. And because we're no longer allowing a false barrier to get in our way to work with people. And I say that because as a person who's done a ton of home construction projects and a ton, at one point one morning, because the GC that we hired, they were special people. They were never coordinating the project. And so I'm yelling a color in Spanish and I'm going, out, rojo, out. And so I texted the guy, like, when I have to yell Spanish at somebody, you are in big trouble because I'm not a GC. Like and I felt bad that I was yelling at this guy. And part of the reason I was yelling is because he was on the roof, not because I was yelling because I was mad.
Right.
But anyway, but then we had a gentleman or a company install a fence, and we used Google Translate to wrap up the job. And I was like, this feels so much better. Like we can use technology for better human connection.
That's right.
But I say that in your case because your desire to learn, the desire for the company to learn, your desire for people to work with each other, like that feels to me completely wrapped up into this project that is now going to make work with the people so much better.
You know, it's funny. I never thought of it until you just said it, that's the case. For me, it's, hey, there's a problem, right? And I want to solve it. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Why this problem, right? There's a lot of problems in the world. Why am I focused on this problem? And probably because it goes to my sweet spot of connecting with people and the need for us as people to connect with each other.
Yes.
Which was terrible for the pandemic because everybody was living in a box, right?
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Here's me. No, that's not me.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. We like here, I'm spontaneous. I barge into people all the time and say, hey, I mean, I cause a certain amount of chaos in my company, but everybody understands it. And it's always, I'm respectful, right? There's a line, right?
Yes.
Don't do it. Be genuine, right? That's what it is. Be genuine. People will tolerate if they know you can't help but be this way. They get it.
Yeah.
If you're doing it because you want to show you're in charge, no, that they're not going to like that.
Right.
And I think I'm successful because nobody's told me to go away. So I'm going to say that I'm successful in being genuine about it. But I struggled during COVID to not have everybody in the office. I continued to come to the office. And then my exec team, like once we all got vaccinated and got through, it's like, okay, let's start to get together.
Yeah.
But there's a freedom in the schedule, right? And people realized, wow, in the IT world, we got to work a lot of hours. It would be good to not necessarily get rid of all the remote work. So we went back and forth, and I think where we settled is really good, which is Fridays, everybody works from home. And you still have to do your job. You still have to take care of things.
Of course.
But if you need to go and drop your car off at the mechanic, you can do it.
Yeah.
Right? You can't ask people to answer calls at 10 o'clock at night if there's an issue that they really need to resolve, and then be anal if it's 10 o'clock in the morning and they need to drop their car off at the mechanic.
Oh, God, yes. Life is too short for that, man. It's too short.
But nobody taught me how to manage people, right? It's all about every mistake that I made. The more you micromanage, the less you're managing.
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
Right?
I think that's the title of this episode right there, Richard. The more you micromanage, the less you're managing. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well, hey, we are at time here. Thank you for an amazing conversation.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. And I get to see you in a few weeks, which is even awesomer. Because we're all connected. Oh my God, it's so good. So good. Cannot wait to meet you in person. All right. Yeah, anything else that you want to make sure our listeners hear from your wisdom?
If you have DevOps or application or technology is a frustration for your organization, I would love the opportunity to help and give you some alternatives.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And do you all serve nationwide, or are you focused
nationwide?
Perfect.
We're focused on the East Coast, but we have clients everywhere. And usually what we do, like we're just onboarding a client in Iowa. We sent a tech twice to Iowa. And we then made arrangements that if we had to go, we'll dispatch. But we don't. Once we get clients squared away, you can do everything remotely these days.
Yes. Fabulous. Yeah. So if you're looking for an MSP and you really value integrity and accountability like Richard and I do, think about giving him a call.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem.
So I think that a lot of leaders, technology and in many, many different areas, I think there's a perception that, man, if we just figure out how to accomplish our strategic plan or how to get the right experts in the right seat on the bus, then we can be really, really great leaders to just do something impactful. And what my conversation with Richard highlights for me is, yes, I think those things are true. And how do we integrate our personal values into our leadership so that we can show up with integrity and accountability and gratitude? If I haven't said it enough on this podcast, I want to say it again today, is that none of us get to do this work alone. None of us, ever. And being grateful for the people that show up with us and for us is a way to recognize that, one, like I just said, none of us do this work alone, right? But two, the fact that we can't do it all. You know, Richard's story about why his team hadn't been deployed to their client sites that day because he didn't press send on an email. He couldn't continue to grow the company, one, by micromanaging, but two, without his people who were out there doing the work every single day. And so as a leader, I want to encourage you to think about this week and in the days to come, how can we demonstrate gratitude for the people who continue to show up day in and day out to do this work with us, not necessarily for us, but do this work with us. All right, my friend, if you got value from today's conversation, would you please share this with another pro troublemaker in your network who is ambitious and here to change the world like we are? And I'll see you soon.